Well, hello, Oklahoma City Dodgers fans. Welcome to another edition of Dodger Dialogue. And we are now pleased to be joined with team manager Travis Barbary, who's coming to us from his home in South Carolina. Travis, we certainly appreciate you taking the time to spend a few minutes with us here today. First and foremost, how are you and your family doing right
We're all good. Everybody's healthy. I think we're getting to the point where we're driving each other a little bit crazy, but we're doing well. And I will say that I'm sure my wife is ready for me to get back to work. She's not used to having me home this much. And I've done all the honey-do list I can do, so there's nothing left to do but drive her crazy. So, but no, we're doing good and glad to be here.
Well, I imagine, and you mentioned this first time in a long time, you've been home at this time of year, whether it was last year with the team in OKC or in your capacity as the catching coordinator prior to that. What's it like being at home in early or mid-April for the first time and probably almost ever?
Yeah, well, you realize how bad the pollen is here in April, and everybody's allergies acting up. And I actually got to go turkey hunting the other day, which I've never done.
Okay.
So that was fun. But no, it's definitely different. And but I'm actually trying to make the most of being home and spend more time with the family. And although it's not the best circumstances as far as why we're home, we're trying to make the most of it and spend as much time as we can together.
Yeah, and before we started recording here, you mentioned how you got a total of 8 people in your house right now, which just kind of overwhelms me hearing that a little bit. But what kind of family activities have you guys been able to do during this time?
Well, we started off doing nightly walks around the neighborhood, and we've kind of gotten sporadic as far as that goes. We've done a lot of Netflix. The boys and the girlfriends have gone down to the pond. They've been fishing a lot in the evenings. And then Diego Cartaya, who I told you was staying with us, they've been taking him down to fish and doing some fires around the pond. And they had s'mores the other night at the pond. Diego had never had s'mores, so that was a big treat for him. A lot of card games. So we're making the most of it, and the kids have been great. And I know it's hard for them because basically everything they enjoy doing has been taken away from them. And my youngest son, Cannon, the 15-year-old, who's a freshman in high school, was playing varsity soccer, first year of varsity soccer. And I think they had played maybe 2 or 3 games. And, he's had a tough time with not being able to do those kind of things. But I think he understands that it's not just him, it's everybody right now having to make sacrifices and trying to make the most of the situation.
Yeah, I want to go back to something you said earlier. I meant to ask. So you said you went turkey hunting for the first time. Did you get a turkey?
No, I didn't. I actually went to the place where I deer hunt in the fall and where I see turkey all the time. And I had a good friend of mine, Monty Lee, the baseball coach at Clemson, who's a big hunter, who doesn't get to turkey hunt a whole lot either because typically he's playing right now. And we just went out, and he's definitely more experienced than I am. And he did the calling, and I was going to do the shooting, but we didn't have any luck. So, but it was fun just getting out in the woods. And we did our social distancing. He sat more than 6 feet away from me while he was calling the turkeys in, but we just didn't have any luck, but it was fun.
And speaking of doing other social distancing stuff, you're mentioning that you are still able to get some baseball work in with your son Chase, with Diego Cartaya as well. So even if it is just a few days a week, I'm sure it is nice to be able to kind of return to baseball in a little bit of a different form this time of year.
Yeah, we're trying to get creative with how we do our work, just like everybody else. We've been doing Zoom calls with our players that are possibly going to be in Oklahoma City. And, the access to facilities that you normally have in the off season are just not there right now. You can't just walk into a batting cage and start hitting. Most places are closed up. So it's either throwing in the backyard, maybe going up to the high school field and throwing on the band field, or I've even seen Chase and Diego bouncing balls off the wall, working on their receiving drills. And but we have been fortunate enough. There's a batting cage that's been available to us, and we'll go for an hour 3 times a week, just get some swings in. And we got a makeshift weight room in the garage here, so we're trying to do things to stay physically in shape. But just talking to the guys over the last couple of weeks, I think it's just been how creative can you get to make sure that when we do go back, that it doesn't take you very long to get ready.
And I was planning on asking this already. How often are you in touch with guys? Like you mentioned, you have been reaching out via Zoom to some guys potentially who would be in Oklahoma City. But yeah, how often is that contact taking place?
Well, basically, we have set up a call list of guys who were on the Oklahoma City work group during spring training. And most of the guys on that list project to be in Oklahoma City. Some other guys don't. But we'll reach out to them once a week by phone. And then we've been doing a Zoom call on Wednesdays. We did a big one the first time. You know, I'd never done a Zoom call, didn't really know what it was going to look like. So we had 25 guys on the call plus the staff. And it was great, like seeing everybody's face. I think not only did I need that, I think the players needed it just to see each other. It was a very informal setting. Just guys kind of telling about what's going on, how they're doing. And then last week we did our second one and we split it up between pitchers and position players, and I was on both. And of course, like Billy and Justin were on the pitching one, and then Manny was on the position player one. And it was good. I think that as best we can, we're trying to stay in touch with these guys and let them know that when the time comes to get back at it, they want to be as ready as possible. Trying to keep them motivated as far as, you know, there might be more opportunity this year if the major league season starts back and they expand the rosters. Maybe some of those guys who might not have gotten an opportunity, maybe they do now. So, and none of us know, but like trying to keep them encouraged and motivated to do whatever they can to stay ready so that when the time comes, it's not going to take them long to ramp up. Because I think we all feel like when we do go back, it's going to be a very short period before they try to start playing games that matter. You're not going to have your 6-7 week spring training. It's going to happen quick, I feel like, just so they can start getting games in.
And also, has there been in your kind of weekly now routine, are there conference calls or talks among yourself and other members of the player development staff?
Well, we do one with Bill Hasselman. We tried to do a Zoom call, I'd say once every week and a half, where he sets it up with the managers and we just get on and talk. And, you know, we did one Saturday evening, and just basically to catch up with each other, see how everybody's doing. See how our calls are going as groups, like the other managers are doing the same things with their work groups. And see if there's any consistent messaging that we can deliver to the guys. And obviously, you know, my message to an older group is going to be different than a message probably to a group of guys who are considered extended spring or Great Lakes or Rancho. So we're trying to stay in touch with each other. We have text threads going. And I think we're doing as best we can under the circumstances.
So let's go back to spring training. You know, we had a chance to see out there in early March when things were still normal at that time. First, what was your how was spring training going for you leading up to that time where things were starting to shut down?
I thought we were doing great. I thought spring training was rolling along really well. It was definitely a different approach to spring training for me this year compared to last year. Just that not knowing what to expect. First time as a AAA manager, different role. And this year for me, it was more comfortable. It was awesome seeing the guys that had been in Oklahoma City last year and who had gone to the big leagues, done well, started to establish themselves as big league players with the Dodgers. Hearing the staff there talk about how nice it was to see those guys come up and fit right in, which is a credit to the staff in Oklahoma City, as well as a credit to the staff in LA and the players in LA, making them feel a part of it. It seemed like the transition for those guys was smooth. And when you watch them interact in spring training, a guy like Gavin Lux, or Matt Beatty or Edwin Rios or Will Smith, guys that were in Oklahoma City last year, watching them interact with more established players in the big leagues and how they all just get along so well. It's not the veteran versus the young player type mentality. Everybody is on the same page, willing to help each other out, watching them work together. It's really fun. So I felt like spring training was going great. And obviously, the pitchers were just getting ramped up as far as getting stretched out, the starting pitchers. And there was an excitement in the air, with some of the additions like Mookie Betts and David Price. And I think that the Dodgers felt like, this is a really exciting time. And then to have it kind of taken out from underneath you quickly was tough. But hopefully, like I said earlier, we get back on track and we have baseball soon, and the guys are ready to go.
So when we were there in early March, and I talked about this with DJ Peters as well, when I was there, they were just kind of first, people had coronavirus a little bit throughout the country, more so throughout the world, and they're just giving kind of general information to players about kind of limiting handshakes or interacting with fans. And then within a matter of days, unfortunately, everything had to be shut down. So kind of, if you can, take us through what those few days were like as things just kind of kept evolving and snowballing. And I imagine it was probably a pretty surreal experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think that last week we were there, probably about the middle of the week, you kind of got a sense that there was a chance they were going to shut spring training down. But you weren't for sure. And then I want to say it was a night game on maybe a Friday night. I don't remember the day of the week. And in the middle of the game, we had gotten word that the NBA had just pulled their guys off the court, shutting the season down. And I think that's when it hit everybody like, well, the NBA just shut down their season. We're probably next. And I don't even know. I think we came in the next day. Yeah, we came in the next day. There was no game. It had been raining the night before, got rain the following day. So it was already up in question whether we were going to play or not just due to the weather. And then as more information came out, all the games in Arizona had been canceled as far as I remember. And guys just kind of hung out, played a little catch, hit in the cage. But it was kind of like, well, if we're going home, do we pack up and leave? Do we work out? Like, I don't think anybody really knew what to do. And I want to say that was on a Saturday. And literally by Sunday, I think most of the minor league players were gone. They had gotten them on a plane, got them home. I think Monday morning, my wife and I flew home. I mean, it closed down pretty quickly. Yeah. And it was really surreal. Like, 1 minute you're in a game, a night game, and then 2 days later, you're flying home because spring training has been canceled. And like just the uncertainty of like, when are we coming back? Fortunately, we were able to have a meeting. The player development staff had a meeting with Will Rhymes and Clayton McCullough, our farm director and field coordinator, and just kind of told us, that, we're going home for now, but hopefully we're going to be back in Arizona at some point for a modified spring training to get ready for the season. And man, it seems like forever ago right now.
Yeah.
I still don't. Personally, it still seems like we're in our off season, like you're just go to spring training, and then you realize you were there already for almost a month, and then have it shut down, and it's really surreal. I don't know how everybody else feels about it, but it's very strange to be home this time of year. No baseball. Even when I was coordinating and I'd come home for a few days, you could turn the TV on and watch a baseball game,
right?
And or turn on MLB Network and watch highlights. And there is none of that right now. And So hopefully, like I said, we can get back to doing our thing, and not only for us, the players, the coaches. I think for our nation, I think baseball um, has a lot of importance, and I think it would mean a lot for guys to get back out there and start playing again.
You mentioned some of the guys who were in Oklahoma City last year who were able to get up to the big leagues and perform well. But maybe who are some of the guys during spring training this year who you weren't as familiar with, and guys who potentially could be in Oklahoma City that caught your eye during that time?
Well, the first guy that jumps out is Cody Thomas. I mean, like, obviously, I've known Cody since he came into the organization. Haven't seen a lot of him. He had a really good spring going. I think when we left, he had 5 or 6 home runs in big league camp. Really good at bats. Was playing good in the outfield. Definitely opened some eyes in front of the major league staff. I'm not sure that they had seen a whole lot of Cody. If I remember, they said he led the Texas League in home runs last year. But he made the most of it. And I don't know if he was a guy that was a lock to come to Oklahoma City when spring training started. But he definitely didn't hurt his chances to come to Oklahoma City. And I think that just the performance he had was good for him. Zach Rex had a great spring, and I know that he's a familiar name in Oklahoma City. But the bats that he had during spring training this year were really, really good. So I think that obviously he's probably slated to go back to OKC, but he did things to open eyes as far as like, hey, LA might be an opportunity at some point this year. Another guy, Dennis Santana, man, like what a different guy this spring compared to what we saw last year. And just really happy for Dennis.
Yeah.
I think that, those of us who saw what he went through last year, really felt for him because it was a struggle for him for most of the year as a starter. And then he went into the bullpen and had some success. And this spring training, like he might have been one of the best relievers during spring training. Like, I don't know the numbers, but they were really good. Really dominant at times as far as how he was throwing the ball, just his body language, his personality. Like you could see he felt like he was his old self again. And so that was really good to see. Like always, it's good to see guys who are opening eyes for the first time, and it's good to see guys who are getting back to maybe what we had seen in the past after coming off of an injury or a rough year. So that was really, really good.
Hey, you brought up Cody Thomas, and that's the guy who, even though he's never played in Oklahoma City, I probably get asked about the most. And not even, most of the time you get questioned about when do you think this guy's going to get called up? Of course, he's going to be, I've always said, the most popular player as soon as he comes to Oklahoma City, just given his background and the fact he played at OU and was also a quarterback there. So I know he had a big spring, and yeah, hopefully we'll be seeing him at some point this year. You mentioned a lot of guys who were here last year, and I was talking about this with DJ a few days ago, and I'm just going to pull up a sample line. And we were kind of reminiscing about what it was like during that period from late June through late July when the lineup in Oklahoma City was as good as really I've probably seen it at any point. So you had Gavin Lux leading off, Will Smith typically batting second, Edwin Rios third, DJ Peters fourth, Kyle Garlick fifth, Zach Rex sixth, Connor Joe seventh, Drew Jackson eighth, and then the pitcher spot in National League games. You had guys like John Kemmer coming off the bench and probably some other guys that I'm forgetting right now. But, I mean, that lineup then for that month where the team was leading all the minors in home runs, I'm sure that was a pretty fun stretch to be the team manager.
Yeah, we talked a lot about that this spring, like when all those guys were together, just how fun it was, not just for us, but like this, as coaches, but for the team in general, like especially with the struggles we had early on, when everybody was there and doing their thing, it was a lot of fun, and you wish you could bottle that up and, keep that, but, guys did well and went up. Rightfully so, and continue to do well. And that's what it's all about. But yeah, it was really fun to see. A game that sticks out in my mind was a game in Nashville, and I want to say in the first 2, maybe 3 innings, we had put up like 13 runs. And I think throughout the game, Nashville put some runs on the board and made it close towards the end. But like, I'm sitting there going, we got 13 runs in the the third inning's not even over yet. And we might score 20 runs tonight. And like, it seemed like a real possibility. Or the game we had in Iowa where
Right.
they brought in Davis from behind the plate to pitch the last inning just to get the game over. And I think we had 2 guys hit 3 home runs that game. I can't remember. DJ had 3. Somebody had 3 home runs that game.
Garlic had 3 and DJ had 2, and they went back-to-back twice.
Right. And it was like, man, could you imagine, like, if we stay together for the rest of the year, how many runs we're going to score? And it's like nobody could make an out. And when guys were on base, the things that we weren't doing earlier in the year, we were doing at that point. So it was fun. Like, so yeah, hopefully we can have a longer or an extended stretch of that this coming year.
Yeah, I was looking up the game by game. There was one that similar to what you said. There was a game in Nashville, 13-6 was the final. It was 13-2 in the 5th inning, and then there was a game that was 16-1 later in the season in Nashville as well. And in that game in which there was Nashville scored 1 run, Dustin May pitched 6 scoreless innings. So just add him in the mix, and yeah, that was definitely a fun time. Going back, one more thing about spring training, and we brought up your son Chase a couple of times. It was his first spring training, and I'm sure that was neat to have him along there with you. I know he was with us last year as a bullpen catcher for OKC and getting some playing experience in the Arizona League. But for him to go through his first spring training and you, I would imagine, in a sense, maybe kind of reliving your first spring training, that was, I imagine, probably a pretty neat moment for you.
Yeah, it was cool. I didn't see a whole lot of him just because, I was on the big league side and he was on the minor league side. But there were times where I'd be out on field 1 or field 2 and I'd see him and another group of catchers walking over from the minor league side, carrying their bags, knowing they're going to catch bullpens on the major league side. And it makes you proud. I mean, just to know that he's doing the things he needs to do, he's worked extremely hard to get to this point, and he carries himself well. He fits in, and he's doing all the things that he needs to do to make the most of his opportunity. And we got to do some things in the evening, go out to dinner, hang out a little bit. And then when my wife came out and one of my other sons came out, like, that was really neat because we haven't been together as a family in spring training in a long time, but like to have some of our family out there all at the same time was really fun. And but no, I'm proud of him, and hopefully he makes the most of it this year.
Well, we are recording this, and it won't be premiered for a few days after, but we are recording this on what would have been the home opener in Oklahoma City. And actually, I was joking earlier, it might not be the worst thing that it wasn't, because it is not exactly a picture-perfect day here in OKC. But what I wanted to ask is, whether it's the home opener or just generally opening day, what about that day and that game always gives you a special feeling?
I just think that, opening day, it's something that you spend the whole off season working towards. Then you get into spring training. Everybody's working hard, but spring training's long. It gets monotonous, and you're working towards that first day and getting the season started. That last week of spring training, guys are ready to get out of the spring training environment, get to their city, play against another team in a game that actually matters. And specifically last year's opening day was probably, other than the games that I'd been involved in when I was in LA, like last year's opening game, to have Clayton Kershaw pitching in my first game managing in 13 years was pretty special. Not only because it was Clayton, but because Clayton and I have a good relationship, and really exciting time for myself. And I think for the OKC Dodger fans. And yeah, opening day is always a special time. And, hopefully things settle down and we'll be back out there soon and we can have another opening day. And looking forward to it.
Earlier, you mentioned that, like a lot of people, you're spending some time binging and watching some stuff on Netflix. So, what's been in your queue and on your playlist? What have you watched so far?
Let's see. I finished Ozark.
Okay.
We started. My kids, my older ones, had told me to watch Tiger King, and I know that was like all over social media. You got to watch Tiger King. You got to watch Tiger King. I couldn't do it. I got through like an episode and a half, and I'm like, I'm out. I couldn't finish it. My wife and I have watched a couple of more. I don't know the right way to describe them, but they're more of like a southern, like romantic comedy type series. Like Heart of Dixie was one that we really liked, and that ran out. Virgin River, where they're kind of lighthearted, small community, everybody knows everybody. Season, and you're thinking there's at least 3 or 4 seasons to watch, and then there's only one. It's a kind of a disappointment. Like you want them to have like 4 or 5 seasons so you can just keep going. But she typically defers to me on the movies and stuff. Yeah, I don't know that I have anything that I would recommend other than I loved Ozark.
Okay.
And my wife wasn't into Ozark, but I really like that. And I like Jason Bateman. She's hollering at me now, Heartland, which is another good one, which people from Oklahoma might like because it does involve horses and cowboys and stuff like that. So, but Heartland and Heart of Dixie are probably our 2 favorites.
Well, another show that you've always been a big fan of is the Andy Griffith Show. So I got to ask, is there any Andy Griffith show that could maybe mirror the current situation that we're going through right now in the pandemic and everyone having to stay at home?
Well, it's funny because the other day I was watching one and we were doing our managers conference call, and Haas is going around to all the managers, and you know Haas's personality, like he likes to have fun, and he gets to me, it's like, so which episode of Andy Griffith do you have on right now? He comes on in 30 minutes. But I just watched one last week about when the goat Jimmy ate the dynamite from the blast site, and they thought that if this goat gets out in the town that he's going to blow up and kill everybody. So they had everybody stay inside because they didn't know what was going to happen with this goat that ate the dynamite. So that's probably the closest I can come to figuring out which Andy Griffith episode kind of relates to being at home all this time. But we definitely get plenty of Andy Griffith in here during this time of being home.
All right, so now I'm going to get up some of the questions we had submitted through social media. And I think there are maybe some inside jokes on here that we might ask you as well. But Elijah 12299 wants to know, what is your favorite thing about Oklahoma City?
Honestly, my first experience last year coming to Oklahoma City in the off season, even though I'd been there before, I hadn't really been out a lot. But I will have to say, Cattleman's, isn't that right? The restaurant I went to?
Yep.
Like, that's very high on my list of Oklahoma City as far as favorite things. But during the season, like, we're so busy, we don't get to go out a whole lot. And I would just say the one thing that I was really appreciative of is like the support of the fans. And I mean that because things were not going great early on. And I felt like the fans were awesome. Just the environment each night was good. And so just the support within the town there.
PJ Turner 9 he's got a couple of them. First of which, if you could choose somewhere to live other than your current home, where would that be?
Wow, that's a good one. Somewhere, I don't know. I'm a pretty rural guy, so I would like to be kind of off the grid somewhere, wherever that might be. There are some places close by up in the mountains here where you have lakes, mountains. You can hunt, you can hike, you can fish, do whatever you want. So if I could pick a place, it'd be very rural and off the grid, and Um, yeah, that's about as good as an answer as I can give.
Okay. If not baseball, what career path would you have chosen?
Well, I was studying biology in college with the thought of going to physical therapy school. Um, don't know that I would have had the grades to get into physical therapy school, uh, but that was kind of the plan. And I didn't do bad in school. I had I think a 3-run overall GPA at Virginia, and
At a school like that, when you're playing baseball, it's pretty good.
yeah, and I did graduate on time, which is like not normal. But the plan was physical therapy school, so I'll go with that.
And I'm guessing this person knows you, and we're going to end on this because it's kind of a funny one. What was the nickname of your high school pickup truck?
Is this from PJ Turner 9 as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. Orange Crush, as far as I remember. Some other people might have called it something different, but it was a 1970 Chevy pickup truck, and it was nice. I'm telling you, like, I was into pickup trucks, and I still love pickup trucks, especially the classic ones. And it was Clemson orange or Chevy orange, same thing, and had it all fixed up, kept it clean, and so yeah, I think PJ is a former teammate of mine, and we played summer ball together, and he went on to college and played baseball, and he actually came to visit Oklahoma City this summer because he has a client in Oklahoma City. So yeah, PJ, I hope I got the answer right. So.
All right. Well, that seems like that's a pretty good way to end this. Again, we've been joined by Dodgers manager Travis Barbary today. And Travis, we thank you so much for taking some time out of your schedule and visiting us with us from your home. And of course, we wish you and your family the best and stay safe, and all your neighbors out there as well. Anything you'd like to say before we go?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting back out to Oklahoma City. I know my family is. Our experience there last year was incredible. The front office, the fans, everything about Oklahoma City was as good as I could have expected, and we miss it. We hope to be back out there soon playing some baseball.
All right, Travis. Well, thank you once again, and we look forward to seeing you as well. And that's going to do it for this edition of Dodgers Dialogue. So thank you so much for joining us. And again, please stay safe out there.
Thanks. You too, Alex. Appreciate it.